How many cases of spousal abuse were reported in America last year?
From NIH.gov. The dirty secret of spousal/intimate partner violence is believed to affect 3 to 4 million individuals per year in the U.S.
All right, there you have it. 3 to 4 million cases of spousal abuse. And I can guarantee that the number reported is far less than the number that's occurring. And why is that? Well, or do I even know? I'm saying it's probably a lot more than that because most people do not want to exacerbate the situation. Most people do not want to make that abuser more angry. Many people feel that maybe it was partly their fault. Maybe they ticked them off, said the wrong thing, the wrong way, the wrong time. Maybe if they're nice, things will get better. There's a lot of reasons why people avoid pursuing, what am I looking for? Not persecution, prosecution against an abusive situation. So I'm not going to go into the how and why of all that crap. I just really want to say that it's wrong, that somehow or another, the idea that a stronger person can beat up on a weaker person is just wrong. And yet it happens. Alexa just said it happens 3 million times a year. I'm saying probably more than that. And I'm asking the question like I just did about New Orleans or mass shootings. Why? Why are people violent? And why? That's the only thing. That's the question. Now, obviously, if I had an answer, a real answer, well, who knows what they would do to me? They might crucify me. Who knows? But the point is that, we do know why we shouldn't. And many times the abuser is giving reasons why he did do it. You made me do it. If I can't have you, nobody can. A variety of different reasons. Why did you make me so angry? They have a way of twisting the circumstances to suit their own sense of ethics or morality or reasoning or justification for their behavior. This guy that plowed down innocent civilians in New Orleans, I'm sure, had an idea in his head. Oh my God, I got to show them what's going on. I got to teach them a lesson. So the irony of human beings is very rarely do they say, I'm just a mean son of a bitch and I'm going to act out. I don't know how many people just say that about themselves. They usually think that they've got justification for it. And again, I'm asking why. And is there anything that the victim of the abuse can do to avoid it? I mean, that's essentially what I'm trying to do. I don't read the news anymore, or I try not to, but the news invades your space. That's another thing. The news invades your space. We're surrounded with headline news. Every time I open the iPod, or the iPad, there's a whole list of headlines. I glance at them. You don't want to be completely uninformed, but now that I've seen them, is there any real point in, seeing more of it? Why are there bullies? Now, ever since there were kids, there were bullies. And all of us grew up, and all of us, no doubt, at some point in time, were bullied by somebody else. Were we always the victim, or were there times when we were the bully? So these are questions I ask myself. I think about my own behavior. I wonder, was I always right? So, these are things that go through your head, and so that's part of why I'm doing this podcast. Maybe that's going through your head. Maybe this guy who ended up dead in this process of plowing people down, was this his goal all along? Was his goal to terminate his own life? We don't know. There was no big interview before he went. He might have left the manifesto, who knows. But going back to domestic violence, the incidents of child abuse where, kids are being victimized, I mean, a kid will drive you nuts. And for what it's worth, a spouse will drive you nuts. I mean, I think we need to be somewhat realistic about it. If you are engaged in any kind of domestic relationship, there's going to be stress. There's going to be things that just don't go your way or get under your get under your skin, get on your nerves, behaviors. And a parent is going to raise their voice and yell at that kid and say, "You stop it right now. If you don't stop right now, you're going to your room. No more dessert for you. If you don't do this, I'm going to do that. Or if you do this one more time." And it's just an endless stream of threats with also a lot of reasoning pulled in. And ironically, if you listen to that child, oftentimes they then start using that same line of reasoning to justify their behavior and to more or less attack you on the same grounds. Why are you treating me like this? Why are you yelling at me? If you yell at me again, I'm going to call DSS. I mean, it's a constant battle between people. And so with child abuse, some of it anyway, it boils over. Somewhere along the line, it goes from a verbal discourse to physical acting out. And when I became a social worker, oh, there it goes, I was of the idyllic belief that it was going to be a lot of people like me growing up in a middle-class environment where parents maybe lost control once in a while, but I was never abused. But I did push my dad's limits for sure. But I grew up in a family where spanking was not allowed. So, what did they do? They had to reason with me. And can you reason with a kid? Only so much. But ultimately, I made it. Ultimately, I made vows along the way. Boy, when I'm a parent, I'm going to do a lot better than you. Kids do that. But now I realize, oh my God, my parents were almost perfect. And so, your perspective changes as you get older. But for what it's worth, I was never beaten. I was never really spanked. And I never beat my kids. And yes, I did pop them on the butt a couple times, but that was essentially a warning shot, nothing severe in any way, shape, or form. But I used to kind of, tease with my mother about it a little bit. Oh, here we are in a draw again. The battle of good and evil ends up in a draw again. And that's kind of another part of the theme of this thing. Does good ever triumph over evil, or vice versa? Or does it all end up balancing out in the long run? I should stop now. But what I'm going to say is this. The fact that another person in your closest circle gets on your nerves, gets under your skin, provokes you, does not give you the right to act out violently against them. It doesn't give you the right. And for people who end up acting out, and even if they are acting in their own pain or their own defense, their own, emotional pain, I guess we go back to, that still does not make it okay. Now, we talk about coping mechanisms and escape mechanisms and different things. Fine, great. And some people appear to have greater ability at this than others. But ultimately, that's what you need to do. You do not need to get in your truck and drive downtown and run over people. You don't need to raise your hand to your wife and threaten her to say, if you don't shut up right now, or whatever however the dialogue goes, then I'm going to bust you in the lip. You don't do that. I'm thinking about Jackie Gleason, I don't know, now I can't remember exactly. Alice, I'm going to fly you to the moon. To the moon, Alice, you're going to the moon. Everybody laughed. I have a little theory there that if you put a laugh track behind murder, it'd be like, well, it was funny. It was okay, I'm kidding, obviously, when I say this, but my point is, with Jackie Gleason, it was funny. He didn't abuse his wife on the show, but he did threaten her in a comical way. But I do believe, and that's why I'm saying it again, I think spousal abuse is far deeper and insidious than the physical bruises. I think that's the tip of the iceberg, the phrase goes. But, before that happens, there's usually a lot of verbal threatening and a lot of physical or verbal intimidation. The fear that this individual might act out and hit you is enough to make you shut up and conform. And then there are people who say about spousal abuse, well, just pack up and leave. Just leave them. That's the answer right there. You just go, leave. Well, believe me, it ain't that easy. Oh my God, it's not easy. And that's another justification almost. It's just another justification for why abused individuals should either put up or shut up. I just took my dog out for a walk this morning. Alexa, what's the temperature outside?
Right now, it's 31 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, expect a high of 45 degrees.
Alexa, what's the wind chill factor?
Right now, the wind chill is 25 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, expect it'll feel like 42 degrees.
Okay, so we got a little bit more than I asked for there. But my point is, between the cold temperature and the wind chill, it was freezing out there this morning. And when I took Zeke for a walk, we were both cold. And why am I saying that? Well, because just think about having to leave your home with your little suitcase in hand and go somewhere to seek shelter. Where are you going to go? Who are you going to turn to? It is not easy. And to say and act like, oh, if somebody's abusive, you just leave them. That's a complete crock of shit. And to say that is almost another part of the cruelty. So those are my 2 cents. And, are we ever going to stop violence? Are we ever going to stop hatred and meanness and bullying? I don't think so. And I go to Shaq O'Neal, who said his daddy told him the best way to help poor people is not be one of them. And I think with abusive situations, the best way to fight it is not be part of it. If you're a person who's being abused, you may try asserting yourself early in the situation to say, no, we're not going to cross that line. You are not going to talk to me in that way. You are not going to threaten me. And we are not going to have this level of relationship. I don't know if that's going to help or do any different, but I think, like most things, they start somewhere and then they escalate or become habituated, and then they escalate, and then suddenly you've got a crisis. And the best way to avoid a crisis is not to get into the situation to begin with and not to let it escalate. And here you go, not to be afraid to be alone. Gosh, I got to shut up. But one of the greatest series I've watched recently is the Queen's Gambit. Hey, that's why I'm playing chess right here or watching a chess game. The Queen's Gambit, where in the beginning, the mom, who is now desperate, who obviously was escaping an abusive situation, said to her child, the people who survive are the people who learn to live alone. Oh my God, that's a powerful statement. That is a powerful statement. I don't know why God or nature made us lonely, but we are. We are lonely creatures. And in order to avoid loneliness, we will sometimes put up with very painful situations or relationships. The person who survives is the person who learns to live alone. And that doesn't mean you have to live alone. It simply means you have to know that you can and exercise that right. When Tess and I used to go shopping for a car, I would go in and I'd say to her, honey, when we go in there and they start their song and dance, no matter what they say, we're going to walk away. What do you mean? Well, honey, we got to walk away. Let the guy give us his best offer, say thank you so much for your time, and say, okay, we'll talk to you later, and walk away. Why would you do that? You do that They call it in football icing the kicker. You do that to really let it settle down. First, to assert your independence, that you are you're the customer. You're either going to buy or not buy on your terms. And for the salesperson, let them literally sit on it and say, is that really the best deal? Or is the best deal when I come back from pretending to talk to the manager and give them yet a better offer? All right, enough of my bullshit. I'm sorry for the words, but nonetheless, be good, take care of yourself, and remember, you are the most important person in your life. Not him, not her, not them, but you. And for the egotists and for the self-serving narcissists, don't take that advice. Think about the welfare of other people. Think about the welfare of other people and the impact you're having on them. And if you ever have the impulse to go to that drawer or wherever you keep this crap and pull out that weapon or get those keys and jump in your car and make that a weapon, stop. Stop. Stop and think about it. Nobody's going to hurt you if you don't hurt them. Nobody's going to come after you if you don't come after them. Stop, think, count to 10, all of the all of the cliches. There's a lot of truth to it. Or as the Beatles said, let it be. Let it be. There will be an answer. Let it be. I don't know if I'll get sued for copyright on that. But anyway, I love you all. Take care, and thanks for listening.